over the past couple months, we've spent a lot of time learning about the CASW Code of Ethics, its guidelines, its principles, and how central it is to social work practice. At the same time, we've learned much about the horrible mistreatment of Indigenous peoples throughout the course of history in Canada. So it made me think, where were these ethical guidelines during some of the darkest moments of Canadian history? Well, as per the Canadian Association of Social Work website, the CASW was first founded in 1926, and 12 years later, in 1938, the first, most basic form of ethical guidelines was created. However, at the same time, according to the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation, children ages 7 to 15 had already been legally mandated to attend residential schools since 1920. And that mandate continued for decades. Then, in the 1940s, the National Ethics Committee was discontinued, and it was decided that any ethical dilemmas would just be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. And this was later revised again in the 1950s, but still, ethical issues were dealt with by a panel of experts at the local level. So, what did that mean for Indigenous peoples? It meant that the very same systems that were causing the harm were the ones evaluating each concern. So those experts often shared the same biases. Over the next several decades, the Code of Ethics was revised, amended, and revised again. Which sounds like a lot, but 3 revisions over 45 years? And in 2002, the CASW decided, hey, we should probably take into consideration some new research that's out. Maybe we should try to keep up with the development of society. And they reviewed the Code of Ethics from the most previous revision in 1994. And by 2005, the CASW had created and implemented a Code of Ethics that was a better representation of society at that time. Sounds great, right? Well, what happens when society continues to develop, but the Code of Ethics stays the same? Well, this was the case for many years. The CASW Code of Ethics was not again reviewed or revised until 2018, and not fully implemented until 2024. Almost 20 years passed, but the Code of Ethics stayed the same. To put that in perspective, this is me 20 years ago. A lot has changed in the last 20 years. Technology, culture, our understanding of systemic oppression, mental health, disability, 2S LGBTQ+ rights, reconciliation, pretty much everything. And I like to think I've changed a bit too. So, what is social work now? I decided to ask my classmates. Describe social work in one word.
Empathy.
Healing,
Rewarding,
respect, cultural competence,
Or impactive.
growth,
empowering, trauma-informed.
All of these words perfectly describe what social work is today. But how will those words change in 20 years? If society is constantly changing, shouldn't our Code of Ethics change with it? The Code of Ethics is supposed to reflect who we serve, what we value, and what society really needs from us. If it falls behind, we fall behind. Which is why, going forward, the Code of Ethics needs to be treated as a living document, one that continues to evolve as society does. Not every 20 years, but continuously, intentionally, and especially with input from communities social workers actually serve. Because at the end of the day, social work isn't stagnant. It grows, it adapts, and it responds to people's lives in real time. And our ethical guidelines should do the same.